What would I do without your smart mouth? Drawing me in and you kicking me out. You got my head spinning, no kidding. I can't pin you down. What's going on in that beautiful mind? I'm on your magical mystery ride, and I'm so dizzy, don't know what hit me, but I'll be alright. My head's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind, 'cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning. Even when I lose, I'm winning, 'cause I give you all of me.
What's up, guys? Alright, not traditional post today, but I definitely want to talk about something that's really been on my mind lately, and that is vulnerability. And a lot of us don't necessarily know how to channel our most vulnerable parts in our life. And when I talked to Gary Vee about 3 months ago, I think he gave one of the most powerful answers. I'm gonna post this at the end of this story here. But really, what it comes down to is, for me, it was always my scar. It was always the way I looked, and I was always self-conscious about it because, going from a personal trainer to this was really difficult for me. But, when you learn that every single person in life has their own scars, has their own things that they're dealing with, all that judgment and all of that self-doubt and worry kind of goes out the window, and you start to actually focus on how do you overcome that vulnerability, and then how do you use it to help other people with it. And
let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
You gotta keep moving, let's go. Don't quit till you got nothing left.
You can either live your dreams or live your fears.
Because you'll have bad times, but that'll always wake you up to the good stuff you weren't paying attention to.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
From the Cancer Sucks Studios, you just tuned in to Life Lessons and Cancer Hope with Coach Steve. Listen, cancer ain't got nothing on me. Introducing an outstanding podcast where we discuss relatable life lessons, ambition, motivation, and perseverance. Welcome back to another episode. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. Today we have an exciting episode. We have Matt Odie with us. 5 years ago, diagnosed with stage 3 testicular cancer. He is a life coach, cancer advocate, and a personal trainer. Matt, thank you for taking the time coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you having me, and excited to share a lot of the lessons I've learned along the way to your community today. So thank you.
Awesome. So let's get started. I want to listen to everybody that got diagnosed with cancer. We want to first learn about what was your life like before any kind of symptoms, anything like that.
Yeah. Health was actually my number one thing. Like you said, I was a personal trainer. I was a wellness director, meaning I would go into a company and create a healthy atmosphere. Eating, counting my macros, which is your protein, your carbs, and your fats. I was literally working out 5 to 7 days a week, every single day. I was in the best shape of my life, literally a few months before I was even diagnosed. So I predicated my life to health and to helping others create healthy lifestyles. So for me, which we'll get into, to getting sick and to having this crazy disease, it just goes to show that cancer does not discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're a healthy 24-year-old kid like I was, if you're, if you're younger, if you're older, cancer can hit you at any point in time. And that's what I, had the hard reality of learning, not too long after I was literally in the best shape of my life, really creating a healthy lifestyle.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, that's incredible. As everybody knows, statistics are going up with young people with cancer, and it's just, it's sad, but we can overcome it. That's why Matt's here with us. And that's why we're reaching out to all ages. We can definitely fight and conquer cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you, I can kind of gradually go into like how I had symptoms, and then how I discovered cancer. Really, I mean, for me, um, I had actually just started. So I always start. So I'm also a keynote motivational speaker as well. So when I share my story, I always start with a specific date, which is March 17th of 2016, which is actually the day I met my girlfriend. And St. Patrick's Day, her name's Lauren. We're still dating, and basically throughout the year, or throughout the next couple months, we were doing all these summer activities. We were kayaking, hiking, you name it. Everything to being active. And then all of a sudden, I started to notice these minor back pains. And
Hmm.
for me, at 24 years old, you're like, they're just minor back pains. You'll be
Right.
fine. Probably from lifting. It's probably from X, Y, and Z. I had no other symptoms except for just back pain. So it kept getting worse, and it kept getting worse, and it kept getting worse, to the point where I could barely walk. And one night, in August, I was over at Lauren's house, and I ended up puking up blood. Got rushed to the
Wow.
emergency room. They found out I had lost 2/3 of the blood circulating in my body, which is equivalent to being shot with a gun. They immediately put me
Jeez.
on 6 bags of blood, rushed me into an emergency surgery because they didn't know what was causing the bleeding. And the next morning, I woke up to my doctor telling me, Matt, we found an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We believe it is cancerous, and we have to
Wow.
rush you to the
11
main
centimeters.
clinic immediately. So
Ugh.
um, that was a life changing experience, no doubt. Obviously, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking I'm this healthy person, to now having
Right.
this, near death experience, and fighting for my life now. And for me, it was just me and my parents at the time. So I remember looking over at them and seeing them crying. And for
Hmm.
me, as a male, and I think a lot of us males tend to do this, we feel like we need to be strong. We need to
Sure.
hold in our emotions, because if we express it, it's just vulnerability and X, Y, and Z. So what I did was like, how am I going to be strong for them? How am I going to share this news to Lauren, who's only dating me at the time for 2 months now? How am I going to, share this to my friends and family and stuff like that? And every time I'd hold in my emotions, Steve, it would just get worse and worse. I'd get more anxiety. I get more stress. I get more PTSD. And I think this is a big message for a lot of you men out there. And women are usually, if you're listening to this, you're usually a lot better at sharing your emotions. But if you need to hear this, great. The second I saw Lauren, which was a few days after I was diagnosed, I ended up just breaking down and crying. And I remember I saw her, me and her, we just started crying. And I knew right then and there she was going to be, my rock throughout this entire situation. But it also helped me to relieve all the emotional baggage that I'd been holding on for 2 to 3 days, thinking I needed to be this strong individual. And it gradually really helped all of those mental and emotional struggles that I was going through, because I was willing to open up to somebody I loved, somebody I trusted. And that's the key, I think, to, if you're going through something challenging in life, you cannot fight this battle alone. You need to
Right.
have somebody there to help you. And there's always going to be somebody there to help support you, somebody there to help guide you. But you need to figure out who is that person. And a lot of times we could take that person for granted. And if you recognize
Yeah.
who that person is, you know, make sure you latch onto them and make sure you ask them for help, because that's what they're there for. And that's what Lauren helped me through, is the emotional, the mental, and even the physical side of cancer. So it was very eye opening, and I really needed that push.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I hear this all the time for people that reach out to me on Facebook that don't know me. They want to hear my story. They're scared. The spouses, a lot of times, the wives will message me and say, their husbands are just, like you said, it's more of that, like most of the men, try to the pride, or no, I'm not sick, or I don't want to talk about it, and just keep it all in. But, and even I was like a little bit like that, but then sometimes, you'll just cry for no reason. Just, it's got to spill out. You're in the car, you're with your wife, and you hear some music come on, or you see something, and it's like, but it's good. You got to release.
Yeah, it is, man. I'm telling you, like anybody out there who is just holding in all of that stress or all of the anxiety because you're afraid of maybe somebody judging you or you're afraid of like being a burden on somebody, I promise you not. Because that's what I know. If you were in some, like your best friend was going through something and you were there to be able to help them, you would be there in a second. But a lot of times you just
Absolutely.
don't know unless you're willing to open up. So you don't have to open up to the world. You don't have to do what I'm doing. You don't have to do what Steve's doing. You can just open up to one person and then go from there. But I promise you, it will make a massive difference in your life. So, right after that, they did a bunch of tests on me at the Cleveland Clinic, and that's where they found out I had the highest stage of testicular cancer, and it had spread all across my body. It went to my kidneys, my liver, and just like all around me. And they had to put me right onto what's called 5 rounds of BEP, which is very intense, potent chemotherapy. It's bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin. And basically, I went through all the symptoms that you could imagine. I lost my hair. I was very fatigued. I did everything. The physical battle and the mental battle were extremely grueling. And for me, in order to be able to do the physical section where I could get up and move and just do what I could physically, I had to first start in the mind. If I couldn't get in that right mindset of the days that I felt a little bit better to get up and move, I would just stay in my bed and I would let cancer kind of define me at that point. And I knew I couldn't let that happen. So um, it starts, I would tell you, anybody who's trying to be on that physical journey, especially if you're going through cancer, if you're a survivor trying to gain your strength back, the best thing I can tell you is start with just focusing on one simple thing a day. That's it. Stop overcomplicating the process and say, what is one thing today that I can do to better myself that is going to get me to where I need to get or to be at the end of chemo, at the end of survivorship, or whatever that might be. And I promise you, it's like a compound effect. It's like that famous saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's the same thing of being present, of focusing on one thing. And eventually, before you know it, all of those little things that you constantly do throughout the day, each and every day, will compound into something breaking massive barriers in your life, accomplishing goals you never thought you could accomplish, overcoming certain things that you never thought you could overcome. So stop overcomplicating the process and just focus on one thing and make sure you get it done. Keep the promise you make to yourself. That's my best
Wow, I
advice.
like
Make
that.
sure you keep the promise you make to yourself. So for me, I had a lot of ups and downs. And one of the big hurdles for me in chemotherapy was I lost my 3-year-old puppy due to cancer, and he was like my best friend. And I know a lot of you who've lost pets that it is like a best friend. And for him at such a young age, and me taking him to all his chemo sessions while I was in chemo, just absolutely destroyed me. And I ended up going into this victim mentality. I went into this why me mindset. I started blaming other people. I started, for me being a Christian, I started blaming God. I started to ask all these questions. And all of a sudden, after a few days of having this victim mentality, I realized there's this famous saying that I take to my grave now is everything in life happens for you, not to you. And what that means is you can take the exact same situation and you can go two different ways with it. You can go with what I just did, become a victim mindset, have excuses, blame other people, or you could say, how is this happening for me? And I know it's unfair, but how can I grow from this? How can this challenge help me become a better version of myself? And then ultimately, I can use it to impact other people eventually who's going through something just as challenging or a similar situation as me. And that's how I started looking at life. I said, you know what? I know that's not what my parents and what Lauren and what Duke, my puppy, or anybody would want me to do is give up on myself. So I stopped becoming that victim and I started learning through all of my setbacks. And I was able to overcome chemotherapy. And I needed, of course, to overcome it, I needed a ton of support through Lauren and through my parents and through my friends. And like I said, Lauren would come to all my chemo and stay with me overnight, all my sessions, my mom, my parents, everything. I was staying with my parents at the time. And I'm telling you, your support system is everything when it comes to fighting this disease.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is so important, Steve. I'm sure you can attest to this. Without your support system, it is so easy to fall off track. It is so easy to have all this emotional baggage in your life and let it control you. So eventually I finished chemotherapy and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking it's downhill from here, but unfortunately, this is where all the real complications in my life actually came into play. And so I ended up sitting down with my oncologist, and he basically tells me, he says, Matt, we have some good news and we have some bad news. Good news, tumor is shrunk from 11 centimeters to 3 centimeters. Bad news, it is wrapped around what's called your inferior vena cava. Now, your inferior vena cava is a central vein that goes from the bottom of your upper body to your heart. We're going to have to do a 10 to 12-hour surgery with 4 surgeons involved to remove the vena cava, to remove the rest of the cancer in your body, to remove the tumor. We have no idea what the complications are going to entail. So, to say the least, that was the longest 2 weeks of my life from that news till the surgery. But I get the surgery done. It's 11 hours. I go into the surgery at about 140 pounds. Like I was, I don't know if I said before, but I was a 185-pound personal trainer before that. So I was very fit. I was healthy. I lost about 40 pounds. Coming out of the surgery, Steve, I was close to 200 pounds. Close to 200 pounds. My body swelled up like a balloon.
Wow.
And what had happened was, I believe when they removed the vena cava, they removed the rest of the cancer, my body just went to the survival mode. I remember 3 days in, I couldn't even move. And I'm talking to my doctor, and he's like, well, the draining, we put a draining tube in your stomach. It should eventually drain out the fluid. You should be okay. And a week goes by, I'm out of the hospital. Another week goes by and still doesn't feel right. And all of a sudden, one day, my draining just stopped, just like that. And I was on Percocet, I was on Oxycontin, I was on all of these painkillers. Nothing. I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain, I had to get rushed back to the emergency room where they had to drain 7 liters of fluid out of my stomach.
Wow.
I ended up going into complete kidney and liver failure. I had a cone drilled inside of my head to relieve potential brain swelling. I had a catheter in my neck. I had a catheter in my chest because they thought I was going to be on dialysis the rest of my life.
Oh, wow.
And I fell into a 2-week non-induced coma. So here's where faith really came into play. And I don't push faith on anybody, but just I'm sharing my testimony because I just know the power and this is what I truly believe in. My mom, she would host prayer service. She hosted 3 prayer services at our local church where hundreds of people would come and thousands of people around the world, from what I heard, was praying for me. And my mom and my dad and Lauren stayed in that ICU room every single day with me. And Lauren would come up to me. She would hold my hand and she would just pray for me to wake up, pray for me to do X, Y, and Z. And I kid you not, in the middle of the last prayer service, as Lauren's praying with me, as hundreds of people are praying for me, as thousands of people around the world are praying for me, that was the moment I woke up from my coma. And Lauren ran over to the doctors, ran over to my parents. She's like, I think Matt's waking up. She could see my hands and my eyes start to open, and they didn't believe her at first. They thought it was some kind of ghost like pain or something that was causing it. Doctors rush over and they start to see my eyes opening. And that is when...
Wow, I'm almost tearing up. I mean, that is...
Yeah. For
that's
me,
powerful.
man, it was
That's powerful.
For me, it felt like God saying, Matt, this isn't the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. And
wow. Yeah.
I want to ask that for anybody out there right now who has felt like they're in a rock bottom situation or is in one right now. I want you to know that sometimes we don't know the path, but God or whoever you believe in, that is where you can find your direction. That is where you can find your way. Because guess what? Rock bottom, there's only 2 ways out of rock bottom. You either give up on your life, give up on yourself, or the only place you can go is up. And that's the direction I said, you know what? Like, God, I don't know how, but God is going to somehow make this into something special. And, as crazy as it is, though, that was actually not the end of my setbacks. A week after, I'm starting to make some progress. I can't really talk, but they took the breathing tube. I had a breathing tube in my mouth as well. They took the breathing tube out of me. I can't really move much. I mean, it wasn't like getting out of a coma. It's not like you can really move, especially where I was. I still had kidney and liver failure, so I was still like bedridden. But they saw that I was making some progress. So they go to take out one of the catheters in my neck, and I have what's called an arrhythm heartbeat. It's a 0.0001% chance of this happening. I end up going into cardiac arrest. They had to do 8 minutes of CPR on me. They basically had to bring me back to life, and then I fell into another 1 week coma. And at this point, I'm now in the ICU for close to a month, and I wake up and I realized really quickly this time when I woke up that I had to relearn to live my entire life again. And for 2 weeks, it took me from laying in my bed to taking my very first steps again, with 4 nurses every day coming in to try and help me. And you know, that you want to talk about physical journey, that was one of the most
Yeah.
grueling physical journeys of my entire life because my body was so depleted. I didn't get any food. I didn't get any liquid. It was all through IVs. So my body was depleted and I'm trying to learn to walk again. And, eventually I get out of the ICU. I get into a recovery room. I'm now, by the way, Steve, 4 surgeries in because of all the fluid they had to drain from my stomach. So it was 3 additional surgeries. So I'm in this last recovery stage where they're like, okay, we're seeing some progress. You're making some steps. You're walking a little further. We're going to send you off to your last stage of physical therapy where we're going to hopefully within a week get you out of here. As they're wheeling me off, not in a wheelchair, in my bed, my stitches pop open, the spleen sticking out of my stomach, and I get rushed into a 5th major surgery. What they
Oh
had to do
my.
was called an open wound surgery on me. They couldn't close my
Wow.
skin back up, so I had to leave a football-sized mesh on me. They had to take out all of my abdominal muscles, and once again, back in the ICU room. And this time, I wake up and I know what's going on. I know everything now because my mind's intact now. Of like, hey, this is
Oh
like
yeah.
this is a near death experience, and if I don't, I remember, I'll put it in perspective. They had my hands tied to the bed because they didn't want me touching my wound. And for 2 days, I'm not even kidding you, for 2 days, I had a breathing tube in my mouth, and they didn't know that I was healthy enough to take the breathing tube out and, for me to talk. So I had to sit there for 2 days knowing what was
Ugh.
going on, not knowing the actual outcome. And that's where I wasn't in rock bottom before. I was in officially rock bottom then.
Yeah.
And I remember praying to God. I said, God, this is my last, this is it. I either can give up or, like I said before, can, can you please give me the strength to move forward? And I'm telling you, I have this analogy. It's like a slingshot analogy. Every setback that you have, think of a slingshot, gets a little more resistance. It's a little more resistance. Get a little more resistance. I'm telling you, one of these days, that slingshot is going to fire off. And for
Yeah.
me, it was when they took the ropes off of my hands, they took the breathing tube off, and that slingshot just went. I got up that day. I got up off of my bed. I don't know what it was, some power of God or something. And I walked
Wow.
further than I ever did previous to the ICU, previous to the past recovery room. I was out of that ICU room in 3 days, out of the recovery room in another 2 days, and then finally in my final stages of physical therapy. And I was on this mission. And
That's incredible.
yeah, after 53 days in the hospital, ICU over 40 days, I was released. And as I told you how I start my stories as a speaker, how I met Lauren on March 17th of 2016, I was released on March 17th of 2017, exactly 1 year from when we met. I'm gonna tell you right now, she did not leave that hospital. She was, I say she's an angel sent down for me because she was there every day. She would wake up at 6 in the morning, see me. She'd go to work she'd go to work and then she'd come right back and just sit there with me. She didn't go out with her friends. Her birthday was during that time. Valentine's Day was during that. Stayed with me. And for me, it was God saying, hey, I'm putting that person in your life for a reason. And, just today for anybody out there, if you know that person who's there for you, I know I mentioned it before, but please reach out to them. Let them know how much you care about them. Because guess what? Not only is it going to make their day, but it's also going to make your day as well, knowing that you appreciate them so much in your life. And she's just like an angel sent down for me, man. So that was kind of, sorry I've been talking a lot. And if you have any questions, I'll let you go from there. But the recovery process is another journey for me. But this was kind of like everything that happened. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's so inspiring, and you're so right. Like, you have to start with the one person, and for me, it's my wife. She's my rock, and it's just to lean on her so much. And then, of course, I let her lean on me because, throughout these podcasts, I try to shout out to caregivers, because they're going through a lot. with us in our journey. But for those that want to try to embrace the connections outside of just your one or two family members. I mean, and embrace with people that share our adversities, going through the similar life struggles, and just making connections like you and I have, Matt, and other people that we don't know. I think that's such a fulfilling life thing to go through, you know?
Absolutely, man. It's vital. I always tell you, you want to go a direction in your life, you better surround yourself with the people who are going to help you get there. And I'll get into
Yeah.
that here of how I became a speaker and how I became a coach and how I went off of my journey, because unfortunately, some of the people that, of course, gave me the support during cancer, when I said I'm going to go do something bigger with my life, it was only a small percentage, but that small percentage hurts. They don't understand you. They don't get why you're not just going back to your normal life. They don't get why you're not just doing your 9 to 5 and say, wow, you went through so much. Why put yourself through some more pressure in life? When really it's me, I feel like I've been given that second chance. I've been given a new perspective, a new journey, go do something bigger. And I think a lot of you who are going through these challenging moments right now or have overcame them, you feel the exact same way. And I want you to know that that's there for a reason. That thing in your heart that's tugging on you, saying you don't need to be the same. You have those, amazing attributes that you've had before cancer, but you have more now. You have lessons. You have growth opportunities. You have so much more in your life. Don't just let that go, under the rug. Use that. And
Absolutely.
so I couldn't agree more with you, man. But it took me, I'm gonna tell you right now, before I could even think about doing any of that stuff, it took me 2 years to recover mentally, emotionally, and physically. And when I got out of that hospital, I told you I was 100 to almost 200 pounds going into it,
All right.
110 pounds coming out of the hospital.
Wow.
Because
Ugh.
yeah, I mean, I was in
And you're a
skeleton
180, right? 180 to start.
85 personal training,
185. Yeah.
70% body fat, super fat. I could even show you pictures, and then you got to see me after. I looked like a skeleton. And I'll tell you right now, the first mental hurdle I had to overcome was my own body image issue, and knowing
Sure.
that it's going to take me a long time to get back to where I was, and that was years of me getting in the gym, eating the right foods, making sure I was disciplined. And I said, you know what though, all of that hard work that I put in before is helping me to create the discipline that I need now. And that's what I want to tell people is your hard work that you put in the past, your struggles that you've overcame in the past is actually a setup for more struggles that you're going to face in your future, for more challenges you're going to face in your future. They're all lessons. They're all growth opportunities. So all of that stuff that I was doing in the past allowed me to say, listen, I need to stay consistent, because if you want to get anywhere in your health journey or anywhere in life, you need to stay consistent with what you're doing.
I
And,
love that.
and that's what I was. And I said, okay, how do I stay consistent? But before I was able to do that, for 2 weeks out of the hospital, I fell right into a victim mindset again because I didn't have the accountability. I didn't have the nurses that were constantly coming in every day. I didn't have the doctors telling me every day. I was at home, and I had Lauren and my parents, but they had to go do their own things too.
Oh,
So
sure.
eventually, I actually got rushed back into the emergency room, had a standing heart rate of 150 beats a minute. My blood pressure was through the roof, and I had a temperature of 103 degrees. And for about 5 days, I was in the hospital. And this was another life-changing moment. I have 3 life-changing moments. Number one was when I was tied to the bed. I was praying to God. This is my second one. I'm getting out of the hospital. I sit down with Lauren, and we ultimately come to the conclusion that if I don't take care of myself and I am not disciplined and I keep falling into this why me mindset, I will probably not be here next month. And that's the true reality. Talk about having to live in the present. When people say, oh, live in the present, it's easy to say that. But when you're fighting a near-death experience where if you don't live in the present, you're constantly worrying about the past, or constantly letting the past define you, or constantly worrying about the future, you're not going to get very far. So what I did, I'm going to tell you exactly how I did this. The next day, I picked up a 5-pound dumbbell. This is it. Anybody on their health journey right now, this is what you can do. I picked up a 5-pound dumbbell, and I started doing bicep curls. That's all I did for like 20 minutes. with a 5-pound dumbbell. You know what I did the next day? I did the same freaking thing, but I felt so great because I was building momentum in my life. I said, okay, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to keep the promise I make to myself. And guess what that does? It builds momentum. Builds momentum into your life. Then I started eating a little healthier. Then I started to walk. Instead of 50 meters, I was walking 75 meters. Instead of 75, 100. And eventually my weight started gaining back. My confidence started gaining back. Momentum came in my life. And all of those challenging things that I had to do every day, guess what they became? They became habits. They became rituals. They became routines. And when you have a habit in your life and you have a ritual in your life, you don't have to wake up dwelling and saying, oh, I have to do this today. No, you know you're going to get that shit done because it's part of your life now.
Becomes discipline. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what you need to do in your health. There's no magic pill. You know, you need to eat healthy. You need to make sure you're moving every day, getting up and being active. And you need to stay consistent. That's the simplest way I could say. Yeah, you can get more into some details of what you should be eating and things like that, but start with that. And then you can progress into things. Stop overcomplicating your life. That's why people never get anything done. They try to do everything at once. They cold turkey everything, try to add everything into their life, and they never get any of it done. So, really cool story, I guess. You know, I have a lot of stories, but I guess here's one story of when I was finally starting to recover. About 4 to 6 months in, I gained about 30 pounds. It's about now up to about 140 pounds, and I was like, I visited my oncologist, and I'm like, I'm going into that ICU room to visit all my nurses because I'm gonna show them like I'm doing good now. Like they saw me at my worst, so I want to show them that I'm all right. Here's what happened. The second I got in there, the first nurse I saw was the nurse who saved my life when I went into cardiac arrest. We started crying, we started hugging, and he goes, Matt, I'm not even supposed to be working here today. They brought me in on an emergency shift, and I'm leaving tomorrow to go to a different hospital. I kid you not. And we are still friends now. We have social media accounts. We have each other's phone numbers. And that right there was God just saying, I don't even think it was more for me. I think it was more for him of saying, like, you did your job. You did well. And it was just a really powerful story. And so then it took about a year to recover my wound because I told you I had an open wound on my stomach. That was mentally, I can never have abs again. They took out all my abs. I have this big lump on my stomach now. And it was really hard to share that. You know, it took a full year for it to heal. And then it took me another year for me to even be able to share to people because I was so self-conscious. But I'm going to tell you right now, the second I was willing to share it, it wasn't for me. It was for everyone else out there who had their own scars, who had their own struggles, who had their own body image issues. And for me sharing it, the amount of messages I got, the amount of people opening up and saying, oh my gosh, Matt, like you just gave me the courage to not feel so to not feel so worried about my wound or to not have so much lack of confidence in my life. And that's what made my day. It wasn't me being able to share it, for myself. It was me being able to do it so other people would open up. And I'm telling you right now, the more vulnerable you are and the more you're willing to open up and share what's going on in your life, the more people can relate to you. The more people are going to look up to you and be able to open up in their own lives. And like I said, you don't have to share it to the world, but start with one person. And that helped me. That helped me too, though. It helped me relieve a lot of my negative emotions that I had. So that was part of my recovery process. So that took 2 years. And then finally, I gained my strength back. I'm, now about 170 pounds. I've been working out 5 to 6 days a week. So anybody out there who says, oh, that's just too much, I can't work out, quit the BS. Quit the BS. You can find 30 minutes or 45 minutes in your day. And if you can't, then you need to go back and look at and prioritize your time in life. I don't care if you have 10 kids. I don't care if you have, that's your classic excuse. The amount of people that say, I got to take my kid to practice. I got to go do this. I have to do that. You're not putting any time for yourself, then there's an issue in life. You need to take care of yourself. Your health should be your number one priority because guess what? By the time you're 65 and 70 and you want to go and hang out with your grandkids, but guess what? You have 5 doctor's appointments and you're on dialysis and you have, diabetes and cholesterol problems. What's the point of it? So your health needs to be your number one priority. Get up and move, eat correctly. It's okay to have cheat meals, that's fine, but eat correctly 80% of the time. Get your sleep, eat, make sure you're hydrated, and take care of your mental health. I'm telling you. And then when I was able to finally do that, then I could say, how am I going to help other people? So I always say, it's a little saying, and you might have heard this, in order to be selfless, you must be selfish first. So you must be selfish in order to be selfless in life, meaning you need to take care of yourself first, and then you can give back to people in such a more powerful way, because that's where all your lessons, that's where all your growth is going to come. And for me, I'm going to tell you right now, Steve, this is how I found out. Like we said before, I had to surround myself with the right people. I actually didn't go into cancer communities. I surrounded myself with entrepreneurs. I said, entrepreneurs take a massive problem, they solve it, and they use it to help other people. And that's the type of people I needed to be around in order to get to where I was.
Yeah.
And I started getting in masterminds, started getting in groups, and that's what gave me the ultimate courage to share my story eventually. I was definitely afraid to share my story. But as I was able to open up more, those people were like, oh my gosh, Matt, get out there and share it to the world. I don't care if you're sharing on social media. I don't care if you go on stages. I don't care if you do podcasts. Go. And that gave me so much courage. And that's how I started speaking. And then eventually, as I kept talking to more and more people, I started to do mentorship. I started to help other survivors. And then I got the courage to build a Facebook group. And now we have over 4,500 members of cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers that are just full of support, full of love. And I wouldn't be able to do this if I had never surrounded myself with the right people. So remember, guys, you are going to have people, and most likely, unfortunately, if you want to do something big with your life, the people who care about you the most are going to question you the most. And they're not doing it because they don't like you. They're doing it because they could never see it in themselves, and they're afraid. Right. They're afraid of seeing you fail more, of seeing you X, Y, and Z. And then you have some of those friends that are just so insecure that they don't want to see you succeed more than them. But that's far and few between. I have maybe one or two friends like that. And I said, you know what? So be it. You're not in my life anymore. But the other people, guess what? People who question you the most will become your biggest fans when they finally see it. A lot of people in life need to see things before they can believe it. You, anybody watching here, I know this. If you have a big dream in life, you need to believe that dream before you can actually see it. So remember, most people need to see it before they can believe it. So don't take it hard on them. Forgive them, for they do not know, but eventually they will become your biggest fan, your biggest, person that supports you. So that's where I'm on the path right now. I'm working through a lot of things. I'm helping as many people as I can along the way. I'm getting on podcasts. I'm getting on stages. I'm, doing cancer advocacy and mentoring people, not even just cancer patients.
Wow, yeah, that's great.
People who feel they just have a bigger purpose in their life. I want to help them get to that direction. So that's kind of my story, Steve. And sorry, once again, I always say sorry because I just go off. But
no, not at all. No, I mean, you're so inspiring. Everybody that's listening to this right now, definitely, you got to listen to it again. I'm going to listen to this whole thing again a couple times just to get it out there. But yeah, I mean, truly inspiring. And what you say about visualizing too, you have to, and it's even the little things. Like I talk about that in my Positivity for the Mind second podcast, where you have to visualize yourself, okay, you're going to walk, it's nice outside, you don't have the energy to walk around the block or anything, but hey, you're going to visualize yourself going down to the bottom of the driveway, and you're going to tell yourself you're going to do it. And then you just do it. And that's it's so important to stay active as we know. And, Matt, you being, used to be a personal trainer and all that, it's just so important, say, well, I just feel so sick and so tired, chemo and, I do too. We all do, we all do or did. You just have to just little by little, like you said, you went down and just grabbed the 5 pound and little bit each day, did a little bit more,
when you said the driveway, I did that too. I had a lawn chair on each side. I swear, my parents would set up a lawn chair.
Yeah.
And I would go from lawn chair to lawn chair. That was my goal. That was it, man. Like that right there. So yes, get up, get outside, get some fresh air, and do what you can. I don't care what it is.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to point out what you said too about the mindset too, because so many people, you have to cleanse yourself, and I realized this after getting sick. Like I have to cleanse myself of people that don't share that same mindset as I do. They have a fixed mindset, and I'm just I think I've got a flexible mindset now, and I just want to be with like-minded people. And sometimes you just have to flush out those that are just not doing you any good.
So true, man. You seriously, it will be a life-changing experience when you some of these, I would say 95% of my friends are still supporting me. They're incredible. But that 5%, some of them I'd known
Yeah.
for years, Steve. I had to cut them out. I had to cut them out because all they were doing is bringing me down, negative energy,
Right.
questioning everything I do, gossiping behind my back. When you find friends that are gossiping behind your back, they are not friends.
No,
They
not
really
at
aren't.
all.
It says way more. Any criticism you get in life, any like really negative criticism, as long as you're doing what you believe in your heart, what is ethical, and then you have some people that just want to bash you down for no reason, just know it says way more about their character than it'll ever say about yours. Just remember that.
That's right. That's right. All right. Anybody listen to this right now? When you're done listening to this, drink a tall glass of water and get up and move. Do
Yeah,
something. Let's do it. Let's go.
absolutely. Thanks, brother. And
All right.
I give one little piece of advice left if you want me to.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a really cool acronym that I learned from a guy named Jim Quick, and it's HOPE. Help one person every day. And it just goes to the power of when you help one person, it is way more than just helping that person, because by giving a knowledge and giving the experience to that person, they can ultimately go out and help the next person. By you helping 10 people, can ultimately be helping 100. By you helping 100, can ultimately be helping thousands of people that you don't even know about, because you've given the knowledge to that person so they can go out and change the world. So don't forget hope. Give hope into one person, help one person every day. And the power of helping that one person will compound into hundreds and thousands and even more along the way. So
Absolutely. That's great. All right. I just want to say thanks, Matt, for being on the show, taking the time to be here. Your story is definitely inspiring, and we hope to have you on the show again. And for the rest of you, make sure you like and subscribe the YouTube video, and check us out on our audio platforms on Google, Apple, Spotify, and our website at cancerhopewithcoachsteve.com. All right, everybody. See you on the next episode.
thanks, guys.
From the Cancer Suck Studios, that is a wrap. Check us out in future episodes of our podcast and be sure to subscribe. But before we go, just want to give a shout out to all the admirable and devoted caregivers out there. Until next time, stay strong. We got this.
Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.